Okay, so I don't do drugs, I don't do alcohol, I don't do women, I don't do men, I don't do barnyard livestock. Don't laugh. What's so funny? I don't do barnyard livestock. I don't. But I do love food. That's the only pleasure I have left in life.
Food. This is one of my favourite subjects to talk about.
Relationship with food. How long you got?
So, food. I think I'm kind of irritated about my relationship with food.
I was so excited when I heard that the prompt was food this month. I love thinking about food. In fact, I dream about it.
I eat a lot of food.
I'm one of those people that goes to a restaurant and asks, is it gluten-free? And waiters and waitresses hate people like me.
I don't know if you could hear 21-year-old me screaming at the idea of having to talk about my relationship with food. Fortunately, 32-year-old me is here for it.
Just because of the nature of how much I'm training, I typically, with the number of workouts I've been doing, I typically expend anywhere from 4,000 to 6,000 calories a day. So that gives me the license to eat a huge quantity of food, which is great.
Some days, I don't even want to think about food, and that's when I drink, I have this powder that I mix in with water. And
I'm probably the turmeric queen of Vermont.
After my operations, I was on liquid diet, and for anyone who knows me, I hate soup.
Garlic, 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 and kale.
I'll have a love affair with coffee. That hasn't changed.
Part of me was so unhappy because of the pain I was in that I turned to food and alcohol to cope with what I was going through.
I survived and flourished in the coronavirus times because of peanut butter. I rediscovered peanut butter as so nurturing and sensual. And every morning I've learned that I need to ask someone to feed me exquisitely, slowly, so slowly it's painful for other people, but that's the way I really love to enjoy my food, really slowly with a bitter coffee. So I take a spoonful of handmade crunchy peanut butter, then I take a sip of hot coffee, bitter coffee, and I just let the peanut butter melt in the roof of my mouth. And it's so a weird, very personal ritual.
As my left hand weakened, how I ate had to change dramatically. Initially, I entered what I will call the burrito phase. I could wedge my weak left hand partially around the burrito, using the table as my second hand. That way I could hold it vertical and eat it down to the table. You can put anything in a tortilla, and we mixed it up with a lot of different flavors.
I think for me, when it comes to the emotional side of food, I definitely am influenced by narcolepsy. So lack of sleep a lot of times makes your body crave salt and sugar and basically all the bad foods.
Since getting blood cancer, my relationship with food has changed because, like every other condition, inflammation is bad. Sugar loves inflammation. Sugar loves cancer.
Trial and error has actually been the most reliable way of actually identifying problematic foods for me.
So I don't think that being diagnosed with MS has changed what I eat or my habits around food, other than to make me more convinced about my general philosophy around food and eating, which is that having a healthy, balanced diet is just one way of basically stacking the cards in your favor.
For me, transverse myelitis is probably the most sort of pressing health issue I have. But, you know, I was getting hives for a while, and oh my God, everyone had an opinion. And often it was based on what they had done for their totally unrelated health problem.
Definitely my relationship with food has always been somewhat cloaked or veiled in shame.
What I find frustrating is this dogma around being super healthy and then shaming ourselves for maybe not eating just the right thing to maximize our health.
A lot of times when you're a chronically ill person and you're losing weight, you get positive reinforcement because of just the Western ideals of beauty that we are bombarded with, especially as women from a very young age. And on the inside, you just want to scream at somebody because part of the reason you're losing weight is because you're nauseous, or because you can't hold food down, or because you've been too sick to get out of bed. And that's one of the things that can make cultivating a healthy relationship with food, especially as a person with chronic illness, really, really difficult.
The act of eating has actually also changed a lot for me. You know, with narcolepsy, there are times when a narcolepsy attack occurs and you go into auto mode. Basically, it's where your brain is asleep, but your body is still moving. And I've actually had that happen with eating before, where I've just been so exhausted at the end of the day and I finally get food in front of me and start to eat, and my brain shuts off, but my body keeps eating. So it kind of takes away a big portion of enjoyment of what you're eating when you don't even really remember finishing your meal sometimes.
Also, the other thing that I've noticed too sometimes that Parkinson's can impact is that it makes it hard to swallow at times when I eat, and it sort of it changes my appetite sometimes. I find I eat a lot slower than I used to, which I guess is a good thing because I used to just wolf my food down.
The pain started before those surgeries. I was midway through treatment for those when the pain started, and it basically meant that I was on soft food diet for 3 to 4 years. I didn't eat meat, and my enjoyment for food and my passion for food and looking forward to food, it just disappeared.
When you can't eat, you can't chew, you can't consume food the way that other people do, it's hard to explain that to people in a way that they can understand because they have not experienced pain at that level.
The other part of it was that I would also feel a lot of pain as I chewed. Even now as I'm speaking, my head is sizzling in pain. So to chew hurts. If it's gonna hurt, do you think I want to waste that pain on salad? I mean, I'm gonna pick something that I'm going to enjoy eating if I'm going to be in pain. I had to stop thinking like that. I had to embrace broccoli.
Some days I get so anxious about what I'm going to eat, or like what, because food can be pain. Like food is pain a lot of the time for me.
It's a vicious cycle because you eat because you're unhappy, and you're unhappy because you eat.
Like going to a restaurant and eating in front of someone I don't know for the first time is a big issue for me because I can't feel any of this around here. So obviously there are occasions where I may drop stuff down me, or I may dribble, or you know, food may go astray or get caught in my teeth, or you know, it makes me very anxious and very worried.
And it's really tricky because it kind of changes, like depending on how my guts are being. Like some things I'll eat some one day and it's totally fine, and then like a week later I'll eat it and then I feel like garbage afterwards, and it's like really hard to keep up with.
So on the one hand, food can be my worst enemy, especially when I'm not paying attention to my diet the way that I should. And sometimes it can be my best friend when it brings me comfort, even in the preparation of the food, not even necessarily the consuming of the food.
Generally, we eat for two reasons. First, to nourish our body, which is guided by reason, and the other is to nourish our soul, which is guided by our emotions. The dopamine and other reward molecules are released by your brain by the taste of sugars or fats. I used to love my occasional pub burger, house-cut fries, and a pho. I could still have that if I liquefied it in my Vitamix blender, but what is the point without the dopamine? In that context, I have become a purely rational eater. Comfort food is no longer part of my reality.
And I'm also really grateful for the ability to eat a meal at home with my husband, to be able to be healthy enough to stand and cook a meal again, where as about 3 years ago I couldn't do that.
Because food is so much more than just what we eat, it's how we eat it and who we eat it with.
Food turned into more of a mindfulness practice for me. It was more of a therapy than just getting by just eating food. I fell back in love with it again.
And now that I'm a quadriplegic, the difference between my enjoyment of food has changed, because I had to learn how to articulate how I needed to enjoy my food, because no one knows how one enjoys their food unless they're forced to think about it.
This is something that I really try to keep on hand. This is my dark chocolate with almonds and sea salt.
And I love seafood. Oh my God, I love seafood.
Mashed potatoes from KFC.
I fell in love with pastry when I finally got around to being able to eat solid food again. I just like the consistency and the flakiness in my mouth.
I'll still sit down and eat a small bag of malted milk balls.
I do enjoy food probably too much.
I am a presence. I am present with the people I love. That is enough. My formula, although not glamorous in plastic packaging, sustains my presence, and that is enough. I have reasons to live that are bigger than food, and I choose to focus on what my food enables me in the fulfillment of my purpose, and not the dopamine that my burgers and fries used to provide me. That is saying a lot when you consider how good the food scene is in Portland, Oregon.